Hello and welcome back to Obsessive Prepper AZ. I want to do a video on talking about different ways to store your preps. Something I've been doing, a lot of downtime. We're all at home, we're watching videos, and I'm seeing so many new preppers out there on YouTube, and I commend every one of them because even having a little bit of food extra for your family to take care of is an awesome thing. But what I'm watching is videos of shelves of food, and as much as you are trying, you've got to go the next step of how long you're going to store your food. Think about that. Think about rodents and think about bugs. By just putting something simply as a box of crackers on a shelf and doomsday, SHTF situation, bugs and rodents are going to be rampant. So you're going to have to think, if you're going to have this, that they're going to gnaw through this box. So there's where a lot of my older videos I go through and I show you different ways to take care of your food. I have never done one thing. I have always stressed doing everything. And that way you're kind of guaranteed. And I also don't believe having your food all in one location. Have it spread out. That's the same way we do with guns and ammo and etc. We don't have them in one location. And it's just a good rule to live by. Anyways, going back to the crackers, I've got a video out there that shows you how to dry can crackers. Now this video is an older video and it's been quite a few years, and I personally don't dry can anymore. And I've had a lot of people ask me about bugs. Putting it in the oven, does it kill it? Or like your flowers, should you put your flour in the freezer or dry can it in the oven? I have not had any issues with any bugs when I've used my food saver and my food saver attachment. So this is the food saver attachment. If you've not seen me use this, check out many videos that I have. Now I know right now, because of the situation in our world, that these are hard to find. You know what, it's unfortunate, normally Amazon carries them. This is a wide mouth. So as soon as it comes available, I highly suggest purchasing a food saver, purchasing mason jars, and these lid attachments. So check out these videos. And what I do is I use my jar attachment on my mason jars, and you can see here all the oxygen is out, and I store my crackers in mason jars. I do not dry can them, I do not use heat on them, and I have never had an issue with bugs. I also recommend when you're doing food, lots of it, to break it down into smaller containers. Don't just put it in a bucket like this or a 5-gallon bucket, your flour, your sugar. Put it in smaller things like a Mylar bag, in food saver bags. So let's say rice. You could dump an entire 50-pound bag or 25-pound bag into a bucket and use Mylar. The problem is once you open it up, now you've exposed it to air and bugs can get in. So you're better off using, even if you didn't seal it this way, this is a food saver bag, or in a mason jar like this, even if you didn't do this, put it in quart size or gallon size Ziploc baggies and put them in your buckets if you're not going to seal them correctly. Because that way when you go in, all you've got to do is get one bag and you're not exposing the entire bucket to the air, and you're not going to have as many bug issues. So I know a lot that I'm going through right now. So going back to the crackers, I do not dry can crackers anymore. I just use my food saver. And it literally, your crackers store, these kind of crackers, saltines, you can get up to 4 years on a saltine. They don't have fats in them. Now when you go with something like this club cracker, you're not going to get the shelf life on your cracker because it's got fats in it. So that's something else you want to think about. When you're storing food for long term, your products that have fats in them are not going to store as long. You can see back here, I store my nuts. I store a lot of things in mason jars, and I know initially there's a cost out there of buying your mason jars, but I truly believe in the long run it's cheaper than to buy the food saver bags or the Mylar bags, because you can reuse them over and over again. Next thing I want to discuss is rice. And I have always been a firm believer in having stored rice. Your white rice, you're going to get the longest shelf life. Brown rice, you do not get as long of a shelf life from it. But I also believe that you are going to get bored. Your family's going to get bored if all you eat is white rice. So I am definitely a firm believer in having other product in your house that is not the same thing. Because if you eat oatmeal week after week after week, because that's out in your food stores, your family's going to be miserable. So going back to rice, I have always been a firm believer. I've got my 5-gallon buckets, my Mylar bags of rice, but I also break it down into smaller. And again, I'm going to say rotate, rotate, rotate. Now, going back to rices, if you don't know, white rice is the longest that you're going to get on a shelf life, 25 to 30 years if you store it correctly. But I also take something like Rice-A-Roni, and like I've showed you, now this is a Rice-A-Roni that I purchased and I bagged, let's see if I can get it, 312. I'm still on my 312. I did so much in 2012 and we are still eating it, and it is still good today. But what I do is I take boxes of Rice-A-Roni, I'll break them down in food saver bags. You could also, if you didn't want to waste the money on food saver bags, if you had smaller jars, mason jars, and your food attachment lid suck the oxygen out. But the reason why you want to put it in a bag like this, Mylar, and then put it in a 5-gallon bucket is, again, rodents. They could gnaw through anything. Now they could actually gnaw through a plastic 5-gallon container. You're just giving them more obstacles of them not being able to get through it. But on your rices like this, instead of a box, it's loose in the box, it's not even in a bag. Look for something, per se, like these bags. Now I purchased these at Winco. The brand's Vigo or Vigo, and it's a Mexican rice. They have the yellow rice, and they have the red bean and rice. Now these have some fats in them, but they will store a long time. And just because the shelf life says, if you're a prepper, you already know, just because it says use by, you can still get a longer life for it. So you're much better as far as bugs are concerned of having it in a Mylar bag. It's already sealed in the bag. So what I will do with this is in a 5-gallon bucket, I will put these down. And again, if you can see here on everything I do, I put down at the Sharpie the month and the year I purchased it. I don't care about best buy dates. I want to know when I purchased it. That way I keep things in my pantry and I rotate it, and everything I get new will go to the bottom or the back. So it's just a good way of you keeping track of your product. So you could put these in a 5-gallon bucket. The little 2-gallon buckets, I purchased those at Winco. Winco also has the gamma lids, which is awesome. So all you've got to do is screw the top off and your flour's here. Now this I do 2.5 gallons because this is product that I use all the time. So when I open something out of my stores, it will go into the smaller buckets with the gamma lids. The gamma lids are really nice. I've got a 2.5 gallon or 2-gallon bucket here. Again, you do not want a 5-gallon bucket of just loose flour. Make sure that if you're going to do it, use a Mylar bag, an oxygen absorber, or if you don't have the funds for that, put it in your gallon-sized bags and break it down. That way, if there's ever an infestation of bugs, it's not going to get to your entire food bucket, which is a smart idea. You don't want your bugs getting over everything and destroying it. Now, you could eat a bug protein, whatever. It's not going to kill you. It's unappealing and you don't want that. Now the next product I want to discuss is mashed potatoes. Now you can buy these in these little foil packages, which is awesome because you don't have to do anything with them. Again, put them in a bucket, rotate, put your day that you purchased it on it, and put it in the bucket. Now also, these kind of bags of potatoes have fats in them, so they are not going to store as long. Let me see if I can't show you here. If we can get in. Okay. So you can see here we have vegetable oil. If there's any milk products, that is fats. You're not going to get as long of a shelf life. But if this is something your family eats, then by all means, purchase it, because I'm a strong believer in purchasing what your family will eat. And what I will do is in my pantry, I've got a little drawer like this. I just get rid of the, those plastic shelf thingies they slide in, do a little craft work on it, but then I store potatoes in this. So once I open up my 5-gallon bucket that I put these in, when I'm ready for them, I'll put them in this. This will go into my food pantry. Then my 5-gallon bucket, I will refill it, put the dates on these guys, and then that will go out to my food stores. So it's just a neat way to store your potatoes or your rices in something like this. So going back to your mashed potatoes are great for a longer term food storage. But again, like I said, you will want to make sure on the box that there is absolutely no fats in this. There is, I think, I'm not sure the other brand, might be the Idaho. It has fats in it. The Betty Crocker, this brand, does not have fats. So what I do with these is I, again, use my mason jars, I break it down, and this is one that I've already used, and I just use my food saver, I suck the air out of it, and it is sealed. So, and then I also, 419 is when I open this one up. So it's another alternative instead of leaving in the box, because rodents, bugs are not your friend. Okay, the next thing I want to address is I've read a lot of comments, even back, let's call it 5 years ago, I bought a lot of canned products with the pull lids on them, like this. A lot of people made comments that they don't last as long, that you shouldn't store them with the pull lids, that you should get them with your sealed lids. I never had an issue. Now that's just me alone. I've never had an issue with these little pull lids. And I've stored canned foods up to, well, 3 years where I've used them and not had an issue. One time in all of my food stores have I had one issue, and that was a can of pineapple that exploded, and it was a mess. But we know, if you don't know, fruits do not store as long as your vegetables. So I've never personally had an issue with this. Now I just went out and bought a bunch of Goya. If you if you don't know about what's going on with Goya brand products, check it out. I'm not going to get into it. So like I said, I just purchased it, 7/20. I put the date. So you've got these kind of cans. And again, never had an issue with it. If you don't want to use the cans and you're just storing beans like this, again, put them in your 5-gallon bucket. Easiest way to store it. Get gallon-sized Ziploc baggies, stack them up, and then put them in your 5-gallon bucket. Rotate. One thing I want to tell you and warn you about, the longer you store your beans, the more water they are going to take to reconstitute. So you've got to keep that in mind, because any product, be it our pastas, our beans, anything we have to rehydrate, the longer they are, the more dried out they're going to be. And so other than possibly if you plan on soaking them overnight, which would be a smart thing to do, because they will use more water, they will take longer to cook the older your beans are. Now in beans, through the LDS cannery, I can my own beans. So this is a 7-bean soup mix, and it is in a can. This can is from 210. 210, still awesome, still fine. But your cans are no different than your mason jars. So putting it in your mason jar, sucking the air out, keeping them in a cool, dark place, you're always going to have a longer shelf life. Now, because you have so many jars, the next thing I highly recommend is learning how to can. It is strongly recommended that you know how to can. Many people will store their products, their chicken, their meats, product in the freezer. And then what if you have a power outage? What are you going to do? So at least if you have a gas stove, a pressure canner, you know how to can, you can break that down, put them in jars and can your food. And I've got tons of videos on canning chicken, canning meat, red bell peppers, potatoes. Just learn how to can. You can get a Presto canner for give or take $80 versus the All-American. And I know people out there love their All-American, but I have been using my Presto canner for over 15 years now, and I've not had one issue with it. And so it's one of those things I'm always going to tell you to learn how to can. These are beans. You don't necessarily have to can your own beans because making them is relatively easy, but something like meats, having them shelf stable that you do not have to worry about them, that is the bonus. And that's why as preppers you need to be well-rounded and know how to do all these things. Now I've gone over your beans in a bag, canning your own beans, beans in cans. You can also purchase, like through Honeyville. Now I'm a big fan of Honeyville. Augustin I'm not so much a fan of. That's just me. There's Thrive out there. I purchased the Honeyville brand and I'm not an affiliate. It's just what I like. And these are ready to cook, quick cooking beans. So they come in a can too. You can order them online. I'm not sure right now how much there is out there in the product from Honeyville, places like that. But I only recommend that kind of thing when you've done everything else and you're working on longer term food storage. Build your pantry first. Build your everyday food supply. Get by with 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. Build it to a year. Then start thinking about your longer term. I've never been the one to push long-term food storage until your pantry is full and stocked. So finishing it off, if you don't have the money for your food saver to be able to do the mason jars, then you can pick up Mylar bags at Winco, oxygen absorbers. You can use your oxygen absorbers in your mason jars and you don't have to dry can. You just throw your O2s. Lack of oxygen is going to keep the bugs out. And I'm just happy to see so many people out there that are doing YouTube videos on the food preps. I just hope that everybody goes the step further, because having a basement full of food, and especially in boxes, rodents are going to get into it. Unless you do something like this, sticky traps and mouse traps, but you're going to have rodent problems. So think about that too. If you're storing your food, think about bugs and rodents and have something like mouse traps. This is a big old mouse trap. But think about things like that. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this addressed a lot of concerns that you may have. And I hope you all have a blessed day and stay safe and stay healthy. If you like the video, please subscribe. And if you want to be notified for future videos, ring the bell.